Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to cover something really important.
We're going to cover 5 really big mistakes that are real common with sign makers.
So let's get on it. Alright, so a big mistake that I see a lot, that I've seen for years, is somebody that wants to make a sign, they get the idea to make a sign, and then they go and look for what router bits they have. They find an old straight bit or an old cove-shaped bit, and maybe bits that their grandpa left them or whatever, and then they think that they can make a decent sign with that. Now, I'm not sure what bits you have, but I know that most router bits out there are not designed to carve signs. That's one of the reasons we use the bits that we use, is because we pick them out specifically just for sign carving. Specifically the kinds of signs that we make. Our bits are all carbide and they are designed to do specific jobs for specific types of carvings that you want to do. Almost all of our bits are V-groove. We do have a couple straight bits, but almost all of them are V-groove. There's a couple real good reasons for that. Number one, it tells you when you're going deeper, the groove gets wider. If you're using a straight bit, then you end up with a 90-degree groove to the surface, and that is really prone to catch on sanding that you're going to do, or taking the black off. So if you want to see what bits we use, go check out video number 406, hashtag 406. That's got all of the bits that we use, and it's got examples of exactly what they do. Hey guys, we want to take a quick second and tell you about Starbond. If you guys have been watching us for any length of time, you know we've been using Starbond for years. We absolutely love it. We use it for filling cracks, for filling knots, for hold downs, all kinds of things.
So Starbond has a 100% shelf life guarantee. So if it goes bad, you don't got to worry about it. They will replace it for free, which is not something you're going to find anywhere else in the CA glue market.
So in the Pro Pack, you're going to get everything you need. You get 2 different nozzles, you get the micro tips, a pin cap, instructions, and now they've got a QR code on here you can just scan and get all the information you need on how to apply this stuff.
So guys, not only is Starbond sponsoring us, but we use this stuff all the time. We'd use it if they weren't a sponsor. So there's a link in the description below, and make sure to use Make a Wood Sign for your discount at checkout.
So thank you again to Starbond for sponsoring this video, and you guys trust us. This is good stuff. You'll love it.
Another mistake that a lot of people do is using the wrong wood. Sometimes what will happen is somebody will kind of get the urge to do a sign, and they'll go grab a piece of lumber that they had in their backyard or in their lumber pile or something, and it's old and it's brittle and it's warped, and that's just not going to work out too well. Also, even if you are buying new wood, the grain really matters. You really want to make sure you have a flatter grain as opposed to vertical grain or on the end of your board. We like to use softwood as much as possible. There are some great hardwoods to carve, but softwood just is a little bit easier, especially when you're first starting out. Something like cedar or redwood or pine. And you can check out the Janka scale online, and that will give you a good reference point of the hardness of whatever wood you're carving. But the biggest thing you want to avoid is carving wet boards. That's really gonna mess you up. The best way to tell the moisture content of your board is to get a moisture meter. They're not very expensive, and I'll put a link down in the description below of the one we really like that we use a lot. You want to try to keep your moisture content somewhere below 13, 14, something like that. Any more than that, and you're going to have a hard time carving and a really hard time spraying and sanding.
Another big factor that I find in not having good results when you're starting out especially is the router. Now, I'm not saying that any router out there can't carve a sign, because it probably can't. But if you want to give yourself the best chance for the best results, my opinion is I don't use plunge routers. That's number one. I think they're big, too big and bulky, and they just don't allow you to get your hands down on the board, which is going to give you the best chance for control of the router. Secondly, I don't like big, huge, bulky routers. Now, I have used bulky routers way back in the 70s when Dad and I started. We had big, full-size routers. For the last several years, I've been using trim routers or palm routers, and I find I have a lot more control with those. Again, these are just my recommendations, but again, if you want the best possible results, I think using a small router, if possible, is going to give you the best chance for the best looking sign. If you use a full-size router, it'll absolutely do it. I did it for decades with a full-size router, or even bigger than full-size, a 2-horse or 3-horse. You can absolutely do it. But that extra weight, that extra bulkiness is just more than you really need. If you can get by, if you have the opportunity to get by with a smaller trim router, man, that really will help in your control, and I think bottom line, it's going to help you make a better sign. The other thing is we have base plates that we use on our small trim routers that allows you to get your hands right down on the board, and I think that's a huge game changer, and many of you have actually answered us that really helps in control. We make base plates for the small routers, but that doesn't mean you have to buy ours. We appreciate it if you do, but you can certainly make your own base plate if you have the ability to cut acrylic. But one way or the other, you really do want a good full-size base plate for your trim router. Another big mistake I see a lot, even with some advanced sign carvers, carving too shallow. What happens is when you carve too shallow, you've got several different issues. First thing is you're going to lose detail. If you carve super shallow, when you go to your sanding operation, you're going to lose a lot of detail. Second thing is, if you're carving too shallow, especially if you're doing outset letters or you're doing some background, you're going to end up with a lot of high spots. And if you're spraying your background or you're carving black, you're going to end up with a lot of high spots after you sand. Third reason to carve deeper is that you'll cut a wider line with a V-groove bit, and it'll give you a buffer zone, or what I call a buffer zone, to go around your outset pieces so that you're not so likely to hit those when you're using your background bit. Last reason is when you carve deeper, it has more of a three-dimensional look. People love the idea of the depth of carving. If you're only carving really shallow, it might as well be a decal because people can't tell. So you definitely want a carving depth of, 3/16 to a 1/4 inch when at all possible.
One of probably the most common mistake most people make, and I did it for a long time, is overspraying. Overspraying when you are laying your letters out, but especially overspraying once you're carved and you're setting the black in the background. A lot of people tend to want to make all that background or the lettering charcoal black, not a single white spot. But what's going to happen is you're going to end up puddling on your board. And when you spray so much that you're getting puddles, then it's going to have a few effects. Number one is that it's probably going to bleed into the board. If it bleeds into the board, there's not much sanding you're going to do to get that out of there. And even if you can, you're going to pretty much sand off all your carving. Number two is that it clogs the discs. When you have the discs or the sanding belts, when you have too much ink or primer on your board, then it's going to take a lot of time to get that off, and you're going to go through sandpaper like crazy. Plus, it wastes time and money. It's going to take a lot longer to sand it off, and you're wasting a lot of ink or a lot of primer. You can check out video number 262, and that's a really good demonstration of what happens when you spray too much. I'll put the link in the description. So we'll have links in the description for all of the resources that we mentioned on this video. So go and check them out. I think they're going to help a lot.
Also, links to videos that we mentioned, those should be in the description as well. So that's it, guys. Those are the 5 mistakes that we see all the time that we think will be helpful for you. We hope that this is helpful for you. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, let us know. Eric@makeawoodsign.com.
Or Ryan@makeawoodsign.com.
Thanks again for watching, guys. We love you. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.